Welcome, my dear lovers, to yet another unfiltered episode of yours truly. I'm your host, Sumant Joshi, ready to navigate the nooks and crevices of love and relationships. I have my very close friend, Staria Clark, on today. After a significant and painful breakup, Staria's healing journey led her to dive deep into relationships and personal healing. This beautiful, messy, and enlightening journey has transformed her relationship with herself and others. The subject here is to settle or not to settle, challenging the societal pressures around settling down and promoting a positive approach to singleness. Whether you're single or committed, the input and perspective here is sure to bring you value, and I want you to know that if you are feeling the pressures, you are not alone. Society does it to everyone, and we share how to mitigate that. Sit back, tune in, and enjoy.
Yeah. So full disclosure, we haven't spent a ton of time recently. So this is going to be
we have not. This is going to be
a great time to catch up.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time to catch up. Very candid.
Yeah. I feel like we're some of those friends that like can go long periods without spending a lot of time together. And then when we do, we're like right back to where we were.
Because I think that happens when you spend time building that friendship in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because when it started, we were doing that deal. And when we were not friends then, and then I think I reached out about something about collaborating, about doing deals together. And I was just trying to build my pipeline by serving you. And in turn, you're buying my deal, things like that. And I think it was just like being good friends and hanging out. And in 2021, too, we like went out in groups so many times. Mm-hmm. Remember, your brothers were visiting.
Yeah, that's right.
No, so that time
that's
was...
right.
November, December of 2021 was phenomenal in terms of going out and just truly enjoying and, not getting trashed. Mm-hmm. It's not, we're not out until 3. We're still home in time, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Being out with everybody, and Kelly was there too a few times with us. Isha was there a few times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brittany Carrington, things at her house. Yeah, really good times. Yeah, you're right. When you put the work into the beginning, like later on, if life kind of pulls you different directions, you can maintain the connection.
And I think if people are growing in the similar direction, if I'm not doing anything with my life, then I'll just keep feeling that, my friends just ignore me, they don't have time for me. But if I'm busy and I'm growing and I'm doing my work, then I know that, she's also doing her work, so she's busy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That we're on the same journey, and I think it's easy to catch up because we pass the same stations separately. We go through similar scenarios separately, and then when we meet at one station, we're like, remember this?
I'm gonna write that down. It's like we're going through the same growth cycles. Yeah. I like that.
And this could be with friends that may be way ahead in their career, way behind in their career or their healing. But I feel like at the base of it, it's all the same. The growth pattern looks the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And that, I think a lot of that comes in our 20s especially. A lot of that comes when we're single. A lot of those growth patterns come when they're single, or if you are with your partner, it comes together. It can't ever, I don't think it can ever be separate, because if you're with someone and you're both growing separately, you're not with them.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. There's a lot to unpack there. Right. So I have a question for you as we dive into this. Yeah. I want to know why you wanted to start this kind of podcast, because you could have done a podcast on a lot of things, a lot of topics. Yeah. And I was actually really surprised when you asked me to be on a relationship podcast for 2 reasons. Yeah. It was unexpected from you, and I'm not in a relationship, so sometimes, but that'll be a whole thing that we'll get into. But yeah, I just was really curious about your why for this, because I want to lead going into like with your why in mind and be able to speak to that this conversation.
Ever since I can remember, all I wanted to do was find love.
Yeah.
Ever
I do
since-
remember that about you. Yeah.
Ever since I was a child, all I wanted to do was finding that true love. I grew up watching these romantic movies, and I thought that real life is supposed to be like that. So when I was, 13, 14, 15, 16, and they're all probably, maybe they're not watching right now, but at some point they will. Every girlfriend I had at that time, I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm going to get married to her now.
Okay.
This is going to be amazing. I'm so glad I found her. Thank you, God. So many things.
Yeah.
And then you go through the motions, and then you grow, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this statement back. We go back and we correct ourselves many times, right? We may not realize that, or we may not want to admit to somebody because we're like, we've always been the same. I've always been faithful. Well, that's a separate subject. Like, yeah, people have always been faithful, and however they are, but people go back on their thoughts. People go back on things all the time because they had that growth moment where they realize, oh, I can't be with this person anymore, or this person does not has the same vision for their life as I do. So I think I need to move on. So all of my previous notions about them being the perfect person have just gone with the wind.
Yeah.
So that was my reason. And then having long relationships, short relationships where I failed just miserably in just to communicate, dates where I failed miserably, all kinds of everything. And the goal then became that, why is it so hard? Why can't we just normally talk about how things really are? Not pretend, not be fake, not go by what social media tells you about relationships or what you saw in a dumb movie. And I kid you not, there are so many books out there that are preaching the alpha mentality and, hey, you should be macho and do this. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. It doesn't even make a human connection, let alone make a romantic connection between two partners. So, and I'm so passionate about this.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can do this for my entire life. So let's do it.
I love that.
That's how.
That's exciting.
And the answer to your second question is
Why me?
Why you?
Why am I on a relationship podcast?
Right. Because so I've known you since, when we met in 2020, and you had recently been through that breakup, and I have seen the breakup, right? The breakup, because we can, if you want, we can talk about that define the breakup part.
Yeah.
But I saw your journey from the beginning. I saw all the stuff that's probably still in your storage that would make a great gift. Remember, there's a lot of stuff in. So if you ever receive a gift from her, it's been in her basement since 2020. It's out there now. I'm not gonna edit this part.
I'm like turning red. That's not totally true. I like to keep some things that I think are cool, and some of them have a lot of meaning, and I have given them to people. But
there you go. See, that's such a
That's
great,
a way to
better way
reframe
such a better way to put it.
I have really had the blessing of letting go of so much. And it's funny, when I wasn't able to let go of stuff emotionally, I felt like I wasn't able to let go of stuff physically. And I kept stuff in storage that I didn't really need. And yeah, it's all gone now. So
yeah, that is very great. Because there was a lot of stuff. But I saw your journey from the beginning, in the middle. And in the middle, I would say, was the November 2021 part, when we were all hanging out and we're all going out and doing things. And then your journey, even just following you on Instagram whenever we get to talk, seeing that journey and how I'm not going to say should, because when we say should, we bound ourselves, it's constricted. So it's not the stuff that we all should do, but it's the stuff that we all could do in our healing process when we go through a breakup, and the fact that it's okay to be single. In fact, it's great to be single. And I think you handled that, you built that just in a fantastic way, in a beautiful way, in a very natural way. But obviously, you were constantly knitting that bridge as you were going on it. So I think people could really benefit from your journey and learn from you. And that's why I thought that you would be a great person to talk about this.
Thank you. Yeah. What do they say? Like, build the plane as you fly it, or something like that. It was definitely one of those situations, because I just dove in deep to my healing, and I knew that I never wanted to be there again. So after that relationship ended, I just took inventory of my life and looked at who I was and what I'd been through and what I wanted. And it gave me so much clarity. I'm so grateful for so many things about that relationship, but it gave me so much clarity in what I really wanted out of life and how I wanted to be loved and what I wanted that to look like. And I was like, I can never be here again. And so what do I have to do? Doesn't matter how extreme, how crazy, doesn't matter how long I have to be alone, how hard this will be. I have to do the work so I do not have to be here ever again. And I have full confidence in that now. Like, there are other lessons that I had to learn. And there will continue to be lots of other lessons, but I will never be there again. That cycle has been broken.
And it's that society kind of builds us in a way where being single is kind of a stigma. Being single, people start asking you, oh, so when are you going to be not single again? Like, the whole stigma of being by yourself and not having someone, it's that validation that they instill in you from childhood. And unknowingly, when we're in our 20s and in our 30s, we have that pressure. It's like, why are you single? Is there something wrong with you?
Yeah. I came from a little bit of a different perspective, because from so early I rejected the idea of traditional relationship structure, and I rejected the idea of marriage. And so my last relationship changed the way I thought about that, because when I found real, true, deep love, even though it didn't last, my eyes were open to the reality that that is something that I really want. And that is a place that I will thrive. And that is what I want my life to look like. Before that, I was like, I'm probably just going to be alone forever. Like, I'll probably never get married. Like, maybe I will later in life, but, it's not going to look like everybody else's story. So I actually never felt like the pressure and the need to settle down. However, I think that comes in heavier at my age now. So to give a little perspective, like, when I got into relationship, I was 29, and I had had a couple serious relationships before that, but this was like, this will be the one I'm speaking on, because like this was the one that kind of broke my heart open. And that was true and deep and real. And the others were very young and more superficial. And so I was 29, and I think that, just based on my own experience, in your early 30s, there starts to become a lot of pressure for women. Mid 30s, it's like, oh no, what's wrong with you? Why have you not settled down yet? And late 30s is like, oh no, what have you done?
So I want to come back to that part with the mid 30s and the late 30s, but I want to go back to the fact where, as we go into our 30s, so after 28, our notions really change. So it's what I'm talking about is a collision of maturity, wisdom, with the fact that you're getting closer to 30. So how much of it is us finding that person versus us reaching that age? Because when I was 26, 27, I was like, you know what, if I didn't get married, that might be cool. Or if I don't get married for 10, 20 years, I'll be okay with that. But as I turned more towards 28, 29, now I'm 29, and I'm thinking, you know what? No, I definitely want to get married, and I definitely want to have children. But is it because I'm meeting that right person and I think this person might be the one? Or is it the age coming in for me too? It may even be genetic. It may be way back in my head that I'm turning 30. My mom, there was a time in 2022, 2021, every conversation I had with her 2-3 times a week, she would ask me when I'm getting married.
Oh, wow. Is that a cultural thing?
Definitely a cultural thing. But it got to the point where I had to tell her, I was like, hey, if you keep doing this, I'm not going to answer your phone. Because every time we talk, you're talking to me about
That's a beautiful boundary, by the way. I want to point that out, that was amazing that you were able to have that conversation and speak up for yourself, because that's what you have to do.
Yeah. And it was very normal too. I wasn't mad at my mom, and she wasn't mad at me back. Like, we laughed it off, but I was like, Mom, very seriously, if you have this conversation with me every time, I'm going to like not answer.
Yeah.
You know, it's that easy. Like, we don't answer calls if we, I was like,
Mom, you're about to be on the telemarketer list.
Yeah.
Like,
And so then it calmed down, and now it's like once every, it's much better now, once every 6 months or so. But they have to understand that, hey, I can't just marry anybody. Anyone that I'm dating, I'm not just going to immediately start tying the knot. So from me, on one end, I have the family pressure, and then back of my head pressure. And now I'm like, okay, am I meeting my right person? Or is it just all the pressures kind of turning into a cocktail with me getting older and wanting to have a family? Which one trumps is my question.
How do you know? How do you know? You have to know yourself. And that's like everybody's concoction of this scenario is going to be slightly different, and everybody's maturity level is going to be different, life experience. And some people may be like really wise and mature at 25, and some men that I have met are 45 and have not figured it out, just never reached that level of emotional maturity. So everybody's situation is different, but like, you have to spend the time getting to know yourself, because that is the only person that can govern your decisions here. Like, you just have to know your own inner voice and know your own intuition and know what you really want. And I think that a lot of that comes from spending time alone, building that relationship with yourself.
And that's a big one, because I'm going to point this out. A lot of people are in relationships because they are fear of being by themselves. That is their primary motivator.
So many people have had this, and my journey took me like in the opposite direction. I went so alone, like from the time I was a little kid. So like, all this stuff goes back to your childhood wounds. And I think that is the biggest thing that is overlooked when people try to heal their relationships. Like, you really do have to go back and heal your primary core relationships. Your origin wounds is what they call them. And so the way that you were first treated as a child, like your first original core wound, whether that was abandonment or betrayal or whatever the situation was, that often continues to repeat throughout your whole life, and especially in romantic relationships. So for me, the first time that like I had my heart broken as a little kid, which everybody does, everybody has their heart broken at some point, it's inevitable. I
was 9.
Oh, you remember?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we need to hear this story.
I remember her name too. I'm not gonna. I may not say her name, but I remember the story.
Oh, okay. By another
I was pretty
girl.
sad. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But go ahead.
And so I withdrew. Like, that was my coping mechanism. So if I couldn't trust the adults around me to take care of me, then I was going to take care of me. And that was my go-to. And that's always been my go-to, is that like, I can never trust everyone around me to take care of me. So I'll take care of myself. So I went very far in the other direction of being alone, and did not ever intentionally get into a relationship, which makes me really excited about my future, because now I'm in a place where I want to intentionally get into a relationship. Even my last serious relationship that I loved deeply, and he was my everything at the time. It still wasn't on purpose that we ended up in a relationship. It was very much accidental. We spent a lot of time together, and then we realized that like we didn't want to be without each other, and like all of a sudden we were in love, and it was like, oh, okay, wow, this is surprising. So I kind of lost my train of thought, but like going forward, that makes me really excited about the future, because now I have an opportunity to do something I've never done before. I've never intentionally wanted to get into a relationship. Like, I'm now in a place where I've gone back and I've healed, or at least worked through a lot of these core wounds. And so I'm choosing to do something that's the opposite of my coping mechanism, because if somebody hurts me, I'm like, well, fine, I don't need you, and I'll run away. So that has had its pros and cons because I've never been somebody who needs to be in a relationship, and a lot of people do have that need. And it's really interesting to see those patterns play out because I'll watch people repeat a relationship over and over and over again and go from one relationship to the next. And it blows my mind because it's like, I can't even find that many people to date. Like, where do these people even come from? like, how do you even find this many boyfriends? And you're like back to back to back.
They all go out on Friday to certain bars here in Nashville.
Yeah.
And they find 10 people per night.
Per night.
And then they can just filter through.
But it's like, I can't even tolerate that many people. Like, I don't even like to spend time with that many people. But it's just interesting how different people cope because like, that's just their coping mechanism is to go from relationship to relationship to relationship and stay in that pattern. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but just to explain my journey a little bit, it has given me a lot of opportunity for healing just being on my own. Yeah. Up to a certain point.
Yeah.
Up to a certain point. You do need to interact with others in order to heal.
Because you've taken solo trips, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've taken solo trips. I love solo trips.
The best.
I'm in a relationship and I still love me time with my dogs. I talk about that on every episode, every chance I get. But I do think it has something to do with how we're raised. I think if we are raised very, secure, you're very coddled, like your parents or your siblings did everything for you all the time. And the first time you leave home and you move in by yourself, you constantly have that need to have somebody. And that's what I have seen from just my friend circle. Everybody I knew that always had to have someone or always had a boyfriend or girlfriend was them because they always had someone. They were always with their high school friends or like the whole town. They know the whole town, it's a small town, or their family just really protected them. So they never experienced what it feels like to be by yourself or fend for yourself or protect yourself when you're a child. And I was coddled to some extent. I think I went wild at like 13, but I was fairly coddled in the beginning. And I think that played a role because I struggled a lot with that. I struggled a lot with the fear of being alone or like actually being sad. And this was, I would say, 2020, 2021 parts of it. It was patchy. Like I was fighting my need to wanting to be alone, which I enjoyed, but at the same time being single, which was just painful.
So yeah, you're one of those people that like hates to be alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to go through that in 2021. And I think you suggested a few books that I read, and then I read many, many, many more.
I read so many books during that time period.
Yeah.
I was just trying to survive.
Same.
Yeah.
Podcasts, self-help books. And I was like, why do I feel this way? I'm not going to die tomorrow. Why am I feeling the need that, I need to have someone? Whereas at the same time, I'm like, hey, I just went to this trip by myself, not feeling like I need somebody or I need friends around me. So why do I feel like I need to have a girlfriend?
Yeah. I think a couple of things, and my overall message for this conversation is probably going to be like really encouraging people to spend the time alone and really get to know yourself and make the most of your time alone too. Like you might be in between relationships and not want to be, but make the most of that time and let it be a gift, like let it be a blessing and let it be a journal, let it be medicine, dive into yourself. But understanding your own behavior patterns and why that you feel the way that you feel gives so much light to the situation. And like it all comes from your childhood. Because that's your forming. Like you are unbroken originally, and then as life exposes you to different things, you pick up different wounds along the way, and it's going to impact you. So you don't have to cling to your past or like continue to talk about it in therapy for 10 years, but just being aware of how that situation impacted you is going to shed light on why you do the things that you do today. And attachment theory is a big one. So I always encourage everybody to dive into the different styles of attachment. And some people like to be with others constantly, and some people don't. But being aware of that helps you understand, like, are you ready for love, or do you just not like to be alone? Those are two very different things.
And I think I would like to add to that by saying that depending on what your mindset is around your friends too, because if you don't have good friends, or if you don't have enough friends, you're going to constantly feel the need that somebody needs to come fill that void. But if you have good friends that support you, not friends that tear you down, or you think that, oh, these friends, they're not really my friends, they're just pretending to be my friends. You know, we all have people like that in our life. But knowing that and cutting it, but having the faith and having the belief that I can have fantastic friends if I want to.
We can have fantastic relationships. Yes. Yeah. And your romantic relationship is not going to be very different than the rest of your relationships. And so if you're struggling with your romantic relationship, take a look at your other relationships, because they're already there and you can already work on them, and you can already find healing. You can already create change. You can already repair bonds. There's so much you can do to grow within your existing relationships. And your romantic relationship is going to be a reflection of those.
So, do you remember your friendships before the age of 10? Do you remember some of your friends growing up?
A couple. Mine were primarily my brothers and my sister.
But do you remember that bond, how tight that bond was?
Yeah.
Like nothing could go through?
You thought that there was like nothing else outside of that.
Yeah. Like, if I go back and I think I still have some friends that that I'm still friends with now, who we know each other from the age of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Wow.
And to think of going back in that time, that innocent brain of ours, those relationships were so tight. You could not get in. I mean, no external thing would ever get in. If anything did, we would talk it out. We would fight, but we would still be friends. How many times before the age of 10 or 12 or 15 did you get in a fist fight with your friend, but still stayed best friends? For me, it was a lot.
Yeah, that's probably more of a boy thing.
Yeah. I've gotten in fist fights with my buddies, and one of my buddy whooped my ass this one time. He was really good at Taekwondo, and I was kind of like, I was not that fit. He knocked the wind out of me one time. He kicked me in the ribs. Awful. I played it cool though. I played it like I wasn't hurting, but I couldn't breathe.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty rough. But it happens when you're at that age. But as we get older, one miscommunication, or this person ditched me, I can't trust them anymore. And then it's like, boom, we're moving on. We don't give neither party wants to give the other party a chance anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many options, and it's like we've all been so wounded by that point too. Like the wounds just kind of like build up over time, and to open yourself up fully and to invest in something the way that you would when you were young just requires so much energy that you just don't want to go there with somebody. And that applies to dating as well. It's like, oh my gosh, I have to learn all about this person again. They have to learn all about me again. I have to go through the whole unfolding process of like, well, you know, this is kind of quirky about me, and this is kind of difficult about me, and here's my story, and here are all my traumas, and here's like, oh my gosh, like it's easier to just not. So it takes a lot of energy to build a new relationship, but it takes more energy when you're not healed and you don't know yourself. If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you cannot show up for someone else, and you cannot fully love someone else, and you're going to have a really rocky ride. So there are two sides to this. Like, I don't believe you have to be fully ready in order to show up in a relationship. I think there's a certain amount of healing that needs to be done, and only you know when you have reached that. So that's an internal, like, intuitively guided question that you have to ask yourself. And then once you've done X amount of healing to be able to show up for someone else and really developed a solid relationship with yourself, then you need another person to help show you the mirrors and find the things that you wouldn't have found. Like, you would not know that you're not healed in this way until you try to get into a relationship. And you can practice that a lot in non-romantic relationships. So nobody's stopping you from getting better at relationships. And that's a big thing that I need to realize too, is like, I'm not stuck in this purgatory of like not improving, not in healing, not growing. I can still practice until I have a beautiful opportunity to, find my partner and then find even more healing.
Relationships in general are so hard because we, like you said, we're having to unpack everything and go through that process again and get to know this person or build that friendship. But I think at the root of it all, we humans, we're still pack animals.
Yeah. Yeah. We're designed to be in community.
And we're not going to meet our perfect person. It's never going to be that, oh, this is 100% perfect. It may be 80%, it may be 70%, but not having the healing done, not going through that process is how you end up texting with 10 different people at a time, going out with 3-4 different people at a time, and out of nowhere, all of a sudden now you have a girlfriend or boyfriend. Now you have a full-on committed relationship, and then it breaks off. I have seen and heard, it's almost embarrassing. Men do this, I'm sure women do this too. I don't know how much, I don't know the percentages, but just like constantly, as soon as you meet somebody, you're just crazy for them right away. Like you're madly in love and you're like, oh my God, I could just marry you right now. And it shows.
Yeah.
But then if you haven't done the work, you don't even know. I was thinking about this yesterday, if it is possible to be in love with more than 2 people.
Oh,
at
I
a
love
time.
this question.
Right?
Let's go in on this one.
Is it possible to be in love with more than one person at the same time? Yes.
For sure.
100% it is.
For sure.
If you don't tell yourself.
I think it's important to, you need to love yourself, but to have different types of love in different containers. So there's the issue, not the issue, there's the topic of monogamy here, but let's take that out of it. We'll talk about like multiple love situations in a different context, but let's say you are traditional monogamous, you believe you want to have sex with one person for the rest of your life. Okay. You still have love for other people, and it's important you can't put 100% of your love into one person and expect them to be everything for you. That will break. It's not healthy. So your partner is its own special thing, like your romantic partner is its own special thing, but there's also a friendship, there's also a coworker, there's a business partner, there's somebody you interact with every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, a few times a year. Like the more you cultivate love outside of your romantic partnership, the stronger you are, the more love you have to pour into that container.
It's like, think about this. If you buy one pair of shoes and you run cross country with it all the time, you wear those shoes everywhere, you wear them in the house, outside of the house, they go everywhere. How long are they going to last?
That's a really good analogy. I love that. They're going to get worn out so fast.
They're going to get worn out.
One pair of shoes cannot do it all.
Correct.
And the best pair of shoes for a dress event is not going to be the best pair of shoes for CrossFit. So that one pair is not going to be the best in every situation, every scenario. And so investing in different relationships where your needs are the best met for that specific purpose is so healthy. And in the end will strengthen a partnership.
Your partner does not have to be responsible for your happiness. Well, that's a general point.
Yeah.
But your partner is not responsible to make you feel some sort of way all the time or be just your healer that you go to for everything. It is okay. And you may say that, oh, this is what we do and it works great. But try having to open up with your friends. Try having friendships with people where they can be your go-to for something on a certain subject that your partner doesn't know about or can't really help about, but you have, like you said, these different relationships. Yeah. And it's like, I have so much love for you, and I have so much love for my guy friends and my female friends, but I'm a relationship also at the same time.
Yes.
And I have so much love for her.
Yes. And it's a unique love that is maybe untainted by a lot of the other baggage that is in other relationships. Like you can't dump all your shit on one person. Staria Clark, who is just phenomenal. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She has a ton of stuff on YouTube, established author, speaker, brilliant, brilliant woman. She talks a lot about polarity. So when you're in a romantic relationship, in order to have sexual attraction, you need polarity, you need difference. And when you blend too much, then you lose that sexual attraction, you lose the spark, and you lose chemistry. And that's how a lot of infidelity happens in relationships that have been established for 10, 20 years. People have been together forever, they have children together, and they're so blended. Their lives are so blended. They're raising children together, they're living together, they run a household together. They become one in a way which is somewhat beautiful and functional when it comes to survival of the family unit, but there's no polarity, and so they lose the sexual attraction. So they're looking for magnetic charge outside of the relationship as opposed to inside. And so breaking down the relationship structure and the barriers of like, where are we connecting? How are we connecting? What are we connecting on? Is this healthy? Should I be having this conversation with my accountant and not you? You know, like how can we take these things out of the relationship and just get down to like love, connection, and romance? And you get to decide how you structure that. But it's an opportunity to be intentional. And with our friendships too, I mean, one thing I just really encourage people on is like your inner state is reflected in all of your relationships around you. So if you don't have close girlfriends, there's a reason. If you don't have close guy friends, there's a reason. What is that reason? How can you improve those relationships? And then naturally, your romantic relationship is going to be improved as well.
I want to talk about people that say, oh, I can't trust anyone. Oh, I can't trust this person. I can't trust that person. It's hard for me to trust people.
Yeah.
So what I want to ask is that how trustworthy are you?
You can't trust yourself. Right.
Is it that close? So you're right here and everybody else is on the other side of the line. And even if the first person in line, you can't trust them, can you trust the person? Do you not have the faith in yourself to have faith in someone else?
Right.
Instead of just you not having faith in them, do you have faith in yourself?
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we fail to build in the beginning, because I used to think that. I was like, well, I can't trust somebody just like that. But it's kind of a give and take. You have to give what you want. You have to become what you want to get in return. You have to become that person.
Yeah. I think the easy answer is like, if you can't trust others, you can't trust yourself. And it's because you have put yourself in poor situations, you've let yourself down, and you ultimately have gone against your intuition. Your intuition will never guide you wrong, but when you have not listened to it repeatedly, you start to not trust yourself, and then you externalize that situation. You're like, the other person is bad, the other person is not trustworthy. But you're the one that put yourself in that relationship, in that situation, in that partnership, in that deal. There was a red flag. There was. Whether you could see it, hear it, notice it, whatever it was. And you spend so much time steamrolling yourself and not listening to yourself, you lose that communication, you lose that dialogue of what you should be doing when you're entering into these situations. So you've got to reestablish that, and then you will never fail yourself. But it's not the other person. You know internally whether or not you should trust somebody, and it's learning to trust that voice that gives you so much courage and faith going forward. So I don't blindly trust people unless they've earned my trust. Like Correct. It takes time, absolutely. But there's a certain level, but I don't walk around like guarding myself either. I just know whether or not I can trust somebody, because ultimately I trust myself above all. And so it doesn't matter if somebody else fails me, because I've got me.
Do you have people in your life that you would, obviously I know that you do. Okay, I just told everybody. Great. Do you have people in your life that you would blindly trust them with your life?
Yes. Yes.
And isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful. But that takes years to establish.
Also, being a good judge of character.
Goes back to trusting yourself. Right?
I have friends that I know from maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, not that long, but I feel like I have gotten the ability to trust myself that, okay, if I think that this person is good, this person is good. And I know these people that I've met maybe 10, 15 times, but I know them from it's been 2 years. But I'm like, okay, I can trust this guy with my life. If I'm dying, he'll probably save me.
Yeah.
If I'm on a boat and I can't swim, he'll probably jump after.
Yeah.
For a fact, I know that.
Yeah. And you learn somebody else's character. When you know your own character and you know yourself through and through, it's easier to see somebody else for who they really are. And somebody else is always going to be who they really are on the inside, deep down, when push comes to shove. And those are the people that I like to keep close to me. When I get to know them and I approve of who they are, it's not who they are with me, it's who they fucking are.
Yeah.
And those are the people that I love and I keep close to me because I know them down to their core. When push comes to shove, like when they get squeezed, I know their go-to behaviors. I know what traumas are going to show up. I know what could be bad, what could be good. And to their core, like, are they a person of high integrity? What do they do when nobody is looking?
Makes me think of a mountain. A person that's kind of like a mountain. But also maybe like a volcano. So they're molten. They can shift around. They can move. They can be adjustable. But you can have faith in them. You can trust them.
Yeah.
And having faith in yourself, but it boils down to where, again, the society tells you, like, if you're single, then they think that your self-worth there's not much self-worth. And I think that breaks through our skin. Not everyone has thick skin that, oh, I don't care about what society says. A lot of people will say that on surface.
Yeah.
But a lot of people,
we're
they
a
can't.
product of our environments.
Exactly.
Like, you cannot deny that. You can say that all day long, but if you have a different upbringing in a different community, in a different environment, like, you'd be a different person. So
100%.
bullshit. I call bullshit.
on that one where, which one?
When people are just like, well, I don't care what society says. Like,
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
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 And so for me, if I to a certain extent, like, reject the concept of, like, I should be married by a certain time. But then also when all of my friends that are my age are wanting to get married and have children, that is in my mind, whether I like it or not. Like, that's circulating in there of like, oh, well, should I do that? Am I supposed to do that? Is that what I should be doing right now? It's just, we are a product of our environment.
And it's constant, even on social media. I think sometimes they show you everybody that's having a gender reveal party or a baby shower or getting married. And it's just constant. And there's more
That's
and
also
more.
like you're in
there's
the bubble.
more and more. Yeah, there's more and more as we get older too.
Yeah.
I see more of that now than I saw 3 years ago.
Of course, for sure. Yeah. And it's just like you're in a bubble. Social media is just a reflection of, like, what we want to see. It's a reflection of people that we know, the people that we've chosen to follow, the algorithm. Like, there are so many other worlds and so many other realities out there if you look for them. And so, and that's something that I would say to somebody, if you are feeling so much pressure to be a certain thing or do a certain thing, go find proof of the other. There are so many people living a different life. There are people living in different countries. There are people traveling all over the world. My friend Jessica Latimer is a beautiful example of this. And she said, this is not the life that I want. I'm going to go create the life that I want. I'm going to build a new one, right? I'm going to live in Mexico for a while. I'm going to live in Europe for a while. I'm going to build a business out of nothing. I'm going to build a business like that is aligned with my soul. And she didn't have somebody in her life already that was super close to her that was doing that. She had to go find other people outside of her immediate bubble that was proof of concept. Go find proof of concept. You want to do something different? Somebody out there is doing it. Go be around those people. Yeah, we get so, like, in our own little bubble, in our own little Instagram bubble, in our own little Nashville bubble.
But why are we so scared to get out of that bubble?
Safety, security, fear of being kicked out of the tribe. I mean, it goes back to our family dynamics too. Like, you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be kicked out of the tribe because it means death. We don't want to die.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to go way back to the root of it, it's like we're
Correct.
afraid to break out of the norms because it could mean death.
And that keeps us, so basically what we're saying is that not growing and not evolving keeps us in the same community that's not serving us, keeps us in the same relationship that's not serving us. And if we leave that, then society puts a separate pressure on us, telling us that we're not as worthy. And I want to tackle that too, that going through your healing process and not listening to what other people are saying and surrounding yourself with the people that are going to support you, and having faith that you will find those people if you don't have them in your life yet. I mean, everything, I believe, is still built brick by brick, no matter how fast or how slow.
Yeah.
It's still a brick by brick process.
I agree. Every relationship, every business, every real estate deal. I mean, you know, we know that hands-on. It's like we may have, and for those of you that know, we're both in real estate. We both sell real estate, help people buy, sell, invest. And a deal may come through so easy. And it's like, wow, that came out of nowhere. Everything just lined up. Like we got paid. It was awesome. That did not come out of nowhere. Like we've spent years building this up. And relationships, the same thing too. It's like you see somebody who's been alone for a long time, and I know that this is going to be my story, so I'm like manifesting this and calling this in right now, is that like this amazing guy comes out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden I'm in, you know, the divine partnership, divine union that I want. And it's like, it looks like it came out of nowhere, but it didn't. Like it came out of the nights that I spent crying on the floor, trying to move out of my apartment after that relationship. It all came from that. It came from every difficult day, every difficult choice, every time that I chose myself instead of what was easy. The end reward comes from those choices, brick by brick. Yeah.
And we need to be not afraid to make those choices for ourselves.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be 25 again. You're not going to be 30, 35, 40, 50, 55. You're not going to come back. Time is not going to come back. The wisely you use it, the more it's going to reward you, because it's almost respecting your time, and then it pays you back.
Yeah.
By things going in your favor. No matter how hard they are in the beginning, because in the beginning they're very, very, very hard.
Yeah. I've always been rewarded by investing in myself, by choosing myself. Always. And that's the safety net that you have to build, because everybody else will let you down. Every relationship will fail you if you're not prepared to protect yourself. And if you look at it that way, then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if I believe everybody's going to leave me, then everybody's going to leave me, because that's a core belief. And the universe has to provide. There is no such, the universe doesn't say no. It only gives you what you believe. Not what you ask for. It gives you what you believe. And so if you believe that everybody sucks, or you can't trust them, or like there are no good men left, or whatever it is that you believe, which is a very important thing to look at, like what are you telling yourself at night? What are your excuses? Why are you not in a relationship? Like what are the answers to those questions? Go after those core beliefs and uproot them, because the universe will prove you right. And I've kind of got off and forgot where I was going with that. But yeah, the universe doesn't say no. And so whatever your beliefs are, it will deliver that. You're welcome.
I asked my audience if they wanted to, if we should do a caller for this episode, and a buddy of mine responded that he voted yes. Okay, he voted. He didn't say he wanted to, he voted. And I thought he would be good because he's recently single and his girlfriend just like up and left. I asked him, I was like, hey, do you want to call in? And he said, no, I'm shy. I didn't respond to it because I didn't know what to say. I'm like, you've already decided. You've already decided, and you've said it out loud.
Yeah.
You've said it to yourself, and you've told me too. And it went through all the way from your phone to my phone. So now it's like, it's already established.
Right.
So every time, and this is going back to what you believe, every time we tell ourselves something, well, there it is. There's no changing because you just told yourself. You can change it by telling yourself something different or telling yourself something better, but you are going to become, like, our lives are going to become the product of what we believe. And it's a much easier concept to say than understand, because I've fought with this a lot. When things go wrong, they say when it rains, it pours. the biggest reason for that is that if something goes wrong once, you're like, oh, wait, why did that happen?
Yeah.
And maybe the first time you're like, okay, that was a fluke. I win all the time. Okay. And the second time it goes wrong again, and you're like, oh, shit. This is not working out. Like, I'm failing. And as soon as that thought comes in your head, it's downhill from there. It's like failure, failure, failure. And failure is just a result. I learned this from NLP. I did not come up with this myself. I don't come up with anything myself. But
yeah, none of this is original, right?
It's not original. It's stuff we've learned. They talk about this in NLP, that failure is just a word that we used for an outcome that we did not desire, or we did not see coming, or we did not want. So if we put that in our head, then that's what continues to happen. If we go on one bad date and we're like, man, dating sucks, I meet shitty people. You just wrote your own life.
Yeah.
You meet shitty people.
Yeah. This always happens to me. Why do I always meet people that do this? Like,
boom.
Well, this is such a great opportunity for feedback. So let's learn something from what is happening. I read this book called Existential Kink, and it is the concept that we get off on failure. We get off on pain. We get off on whatever these negative or difficult situations. In some way, these bad situations serve us. And I got a lot out of that book. It's really good. It's well written, and it spins stuff in a really fun way. And so it helped me break through some difficult thought patterns, because I can get like, oh, why is this happening to me? Like, why me? Why me? It shouldn't happen to me.
We see that on TV. We see that
here?
In movies. We see that on Instagram. So it's in front of us. Even if we try not to think like that, at some point it's going to come in front of you, and then you're like, it's going to spark it again. But
I can get a little like stuck in the victim mentality at times. But she says having is evidence of wanting, which is so powerful, because if you look at everything you have in your life, okay, I have this negative situation, having is evidence of wanting. Well, your first reaction is like, well, no, I don't want this. That doesn't make any sense. I don't want this at all. I don't want to be broken up with. I don't want, a guy to ghost me on a date, or like whatever it is. I don't want this. Oh no, but somewhere deep down inside, you do, because it serves a core belief. So if somebody rejects me in some way, shape, or form, that serves the core belief that I'm not ready to date, or I'm not good enough. So having is evidence of wanting. So what are the patterns that are happening? Take a look at those. There's a reason for them. Everything is a reflection of our internal state.
I think we're great at doing everything but working on us. We will come up with excuses that, oh, I have to go meet these friends. I haven't seen them in so long. Or I have to do laundry. I have to clean. Or I have to take my dogs on a walk.
Yeah.
Or do this or do that. But we will come up with every excuse except for working on us, on ourselves.
Yeah, sometimes you don't want to face it.
And working on our core beliefs.
Yeah.
And not wanting to change them. Or modeling somebody that we shouldn't be modeling. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think we model people in our lives that we should not be modeling. Maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a brother, a family member, a parent. And if they're not growing, you're just modeling somebody or modeling someone that you don't know at all. Like you read about someone and you're like, I'm going to be like that guy. But you don't know much. They may be dead, or if they're alive, you don't know much about them. So modeling the wrong person is also a great, great recipe for disaster.
Yeah, for sure. So pay attention to who you're spending time around. And I see that having a lot of impact on my own maybe desires for dating, not actually my dating life, because I don't think it comes through to the choices that I make, but you tend to gravitate towards people in life that are having a similar life experience. So I have friends that are my age. So we spend a lot of time together because we're all single. And that has given us time to develop a relationship. So those are naturally the friendships that I spend the most time in. And so I see some of them have different desires with a relationship, and I see how it affects me, because it makes me think, well, maybe I should be thinking about that. You know, when I'm in their shoes, am I going to want the same things that they want? And so it's just coming back to like, what are the external desires and what are your internal desires? And getting real clear with your true self on that. And maybe you need to go on a solo trip to a different country, completely change your environment, and then you can get real clear. Then you can hear the inside voice. But if you're out with the same group of friends every single weekend, you start to have a collective consciousness of everybody that's around you. So take yourself out. And how can you just get real quiet and listen to the real you, and then redesign your life in according with your highest desires, not the groups.
And people are really good at making you feel bad.
Ooh.
Your friends.
Tell me more about this.
Why
do we feel bad? Why do we feel bad?
So your friends, well, your quote unquote friends, your circle, your group, or somebody you went on a few dates with, as soon as people know you, they know some personal stuff. And so this is about getting out of that toxic group, or getting out of that toxic relationship, or getting out of that toxic people that are telling you different things that you should be saying, like you should be in a relationship. You should be.
Or maybe they're not toxic. Maybe that's just the desire for their own life.
Yeah. I'm just putting them all in a big circle because they're not serving you. I'm just throwing them all in.
Let's just put them all together.
Let's just throw them all in the circle because they're not serving you. And if they're not doing their work, it's not your job to like tell them, or, you know, it's not your job to like, hey, you may be toxic. So if it's not serving you, I'm just putting it in the toxic basket.
Yes. Okay.
And so all of these people at some level are really fantastic at making you feel bad, making you feel guilty about not being their friend, not showing up for them. We use these words that the TV, internet, movies teach us, or these words that other people used on us. And then I'm going to use this on you or the next person. And I'm going to be like, man, I thought you'd come around as a friend. You're just not even, you know, we don't go out anymore. We don't hang out anymore, this, that, and the other. But you're just trying to get yourself out of, hey, this circle is not serving me, I'm going to get out. And then succumbing and giving in to that toxic friendship, to that toxic partner, to that toxic, even, you know, the 2-date person. That's how I think a lot of people get pulled in, because you go out 2 or 3 times or 4 times and you're realizing that, oh, this is not the person. But then they're so clingy and they're so like right on your hip, basically, that you're like, oh, I'm going to be such a bad person if I did this. No, do it. Cut them loose.
Cut them off.
Cut them off. You have to protect yourself. I had to cut off certain people and the thought processes that came with them to get where I am today. If I hadn't done that, I would probably be just working at a gas station as a clerk, making $40,000 a year. And no offense to anyone that is doing that, but what I'm saying is that I was told that, hey, you're going to stay at this position and this is going to be great for you. You don't have to grow. You don't have to do anything better than this. You can just stay here. And I had to cut them off, cut their thoughts off, cut off everything, cut off communication. And these people are family. I had to do that. If I hadn't done that, and that was by far the hardest thing I've ever done, is cutting people out of your life is going to be the hardest thing you would ever have to do. No amount of, you know, any kind of work or anything else you're going to do is going to be harder than cutting off your loved ones who are not supporting you, who are not on your team, who are not serving you, and are essentially pulling you down for their purposes. Conscious or subconscious?
Or subconscious, yeah. And most of the time it's just subconscious. Like they think they're protecting you, right? So you can't expect, as you elevate, as you grow, as you heal, you can't expect everybody to rise with you. They will not. You have to keep changing your circles. And like we spoke about at the very beginning, you can align with people who are going through the same growth cycles. Maybe you leave them for a little bit, maybe you come back into their life, like whatever the situation is, but you have to be on the same path. And so your original circle, where you're at right now, if you want to grow, elevate, and change, completely radicalize your life, you're probably not going to be surrounded with the same people for a while. Maybe they'll catch up with you, but sometimes you have to take yourself outside of that circle in order to solidify the growth that you're going through. And when your growth has been solidified, then you're strong enough to come back in and get close to those people again. Because you're so far above them at this point that they either catch up with you or they don't get to come. But when you're new, when you're a baby and everything is so soft and being molded as your growth, your heart starts to open, all these different things, it's too dangerous to be close to people who are trying to keep you small. And they're honestly are trying to keep you small because they love you. And that's all that they know. They don't want to see you grow because it means risk, it means fear, it means death, right? If you run that thought process all the way down, you're leaving the tribe, you might die. So you have to separate yourself from that. And that's okay. You can take some time. You can take some years, you can do whatever you have to do. And then you can come back. Like, you're not cutting people off forever, and you're not saying that they're bad people, but take your time, take your space, change your circle.
And don't feel bad about it.
No,
don't let
you have
anyone make
to.
you feel guilty. You have to do that
You
for
have
yourself.
to. It's the only option.
Yeah.
Truly. And if you want to change, and when you come back, and I have seen this happen so many times, and I've seen it happen with me, and I've seen it happen with close friends, when you come back, when you've done your work and you've done your healing, you've gone through your expansion, you are a gift to these people. And you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your friends, you owe it to everyone around you to blow up everything that they think is possible and do it bigger and come back and show them.
And it boils down to the words that they say, because the words that we use are very, very powerful. I don't think we realize how powerful our words really are. But don't let literally anything they say. They could say the worst thing. Think about the worst thing that anyone could say to you, and they will say that to you. I was told that if I left, I would be on the street, I'd be begging, I'd be homeless, and I would have to go back to them. They went that far to show me that this is what it means to leave. And this is what it means if you want to leave, cut off, whatever. But that, to me, is just another way to keep you in and keep you kind of in that box, keep you in that jail cell. So not letting any words go through. And that doesn't mean that you have to be like really tough, that you have to be cold. No, I think that's the warmest spot, because then anything they say, or things when people say to you or friends say to you, it goes in through one ear and it just goes out. It's not that it's not going through, it's just, it's not staying. That's a better way to put it. If it goes in, it goes out immediately, and you kind of laugh it off in your head. You're like, dude, you're funny with that, you know?
And your dreams should be held private too. Like, not everybody should have access. Not everybody do not give everybody the opportunity to give you feedback.
Tell them, No, it is true. It is true.
Keep your dreams private. Go off, do your thing. When it's time, you can come back and show them. But like, if they're not living the life that you want, they don't get the opportunity to have feedback. So cut yourself off, cut them off, whatever you have to do.
People are really quick to, if you tell them your dream, they're like, well, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
They're going to start finding faults for you.
Yeah.
You didn't even ask them. You're like, you know what? I want to do this. And you're putting that out in the universe. And immediately there's this energy that comes at you like arrows in the movie 300.
Yep.
You know, it's like the whole sky is covered up and you can't see anything. It's just like, boom, it hits you.
Protect that baby like a baby you had during COVID. Like, keep it to yourself. Keep it to yourself. Don't let anybody know. Do not let anybody kiss your baby. Take it, let it grow up and evolve on its own. And then when it can protect itself, then you can open it up to the public and open it up for feedback.
And then they're going to read your books and watch your YouTubes.
And then they'll be asking you how you did it. And can you help me, right? People don't know until they see an example of things. So sometimes you're the pioneer in your group.
And then you start a coaching program.
Yeah. And then you start a podcast.
Just like everybody that's doing that.
Yeah.
Let's come back to that one topic. I want to talk about the pressures of the quote unquote the biological clock and the process of, and this is, I'm going to say, primarily mostly for women, turning 30 and going towards 40. And I want to debunk and take away any theory that constricts someone's mindset, that tells you that, hey, you're this age, you should be doing this. because then you're handcuffed. Every time you put should, start putting could instead of should. Don't handcuff yourself. Okay, go.
So this is a tough one for sure. And I actually don't feel like I'm fully qualified to answer this question because I am not one of those women who has a huge innate desire for children. I've chosen not to have children up to this point. And I'm not saying I don't want them, but I'm not one of those women who is like, oh my gosh, I just want 4 kids, or, you know, I just want one, or like, give me a baby carriage, or like, oh, let me hold your baby. Yeah. You know, I'm like, let me not hold your baby. I would love on your baby, but you hold that baby. You got it. Well, let's keep it over there. So, you know, full disclaimer, I'm speaking from a place where I don't have this huge desire to create a baby right now. Like maybe that will change. And I'm 33 years old and I think about children in the future and I'm like, that seems like a really good idea. Like I love the concept of it. I do. I love the concept of it. I want to leave a legacy. And I think having children is a part of that. And I think it's a beautiful thing. And I think when you're in love with somebody, it's just like the most gorgeous thing you could ever create. And there's just like nothing in my physiology that's like, yes, let me have a baby. So, you know, disclaimer, I have a lot of freedom from the pressures of it because like I could do without. And also I'm 33, so I still have a lot of time. You know, I have 7, 8, 9, 10 years maybe, you know, especially as things continue to advance. Probably realistically, as healthy as I am, which is very important, I probably have another 10 years to figure this out. So I have a lot of time and space, and I say all that to kind of give some background because there are many women who feel very strongly about this and feel very differently about this. And so I'm almost hesitant to speak on it because it's such an individualized experience.
The reason I wanted to bring it up is just so they can hear your perspective, just so they can hear someone that's different from them, that's not telling them the same thing, or that's not projecting that fear.
Yeah. I would say you probably have more time than you think. I would say if having children is important to you, get really healthy, and that gives you more time, which is amazing to be able to like play around with it and have full confidence that I can have a healthy pregnancy at 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, even beyond that. And so that's empowering to me, and that puts me in the driver's seat and takes away a lot of the time pressure. But also it's an unfair game with women. It's so unfair, you know, and there's not really anything we can do about that. Yeah, it's not fair that men get to play around and like do whatever they want to till they're 40 or 50, and then they can turn around and be like, yeah, let me settle down now. And they have no clock that they're working against. So the timelines of men and women are very misaligned in today's society. But I'm grateful for where I'm at. I don't feel the pressure to have a child. And I know I fully trust the universe and I fully trust myself. And when and if that's the plan, which I kind of have a feeling that I'm going to meet somebody who really wants children and that desire is going to come through me as well, then I trust I will want them at the time that is right.
Yeah. And being fluid about it and not being rigid.
Yeah.
And again,
I used to be rigid. Oh, I'm never having kids. I'm never having kids.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, no, actually, I think that could be nice. And I'm very open to the desire coming in. Right now, I don't have it, but I'm very open to it. Yeah. Just like I'm open to like getting married and calling in love now, whereas before I was like, no, I'm just going to build a business. But I realize I can do both. I can have both, and I can have it all. And being loved by myself first, like it's so important. I keep going back to that, is being able to meet all my own needs, but then truly having a partner, like I know that's when I can become the highest version of myself, when I'm truly supported in that way, it doesn't hold me back. I used to look at it that it would keep me small, that I would have to sacrifice. If I chose this, I was choosing against something else. And now I see it as the final piece of this big success puzzle that I want. Like, I want it all. I want the multi-million-dollar business. I want to travel the world. I want to change humanity. I want to elevate consciousness. And I want a cosmic lover and divine partnership and sacred union. I want it all. And I know it's coming. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I do feel that way, though. Hopefully sooner rather than later.
I think the first step and the most important step that's like perpetual in that is wanting it and knowing and having the faith that it's coming to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we see stories of really successful men and women that, regardless of all the atrocities that came at them, they excelled. Mm-hmm. They did great things that 99.9999% of people are not able to do even without any problems. But they did it as they were raising multiple children or they were dealing with disabilities because they chose to do that. It really is that simple because they made up their mind and just discipline kept them going. It wasn't motivation. You're not motivated every day. That's not a thing. It's the choice that you make and it's the discipline that keeps you going. Mm-hmm. Deciding this is a Ben Franklin quote, and he did a bunch of things, right? He was never, I don't think he was president, but he made a couple of presidents. And when he died, they found his diary. And in his diary, at the time, I guess they were reading people's diaries, you know? Yeah, they just opened it. They're like, okay, let's see what he wrote. So he wrote, I became what I became because one day I chose what I wanted to become. Mm. And that is very simple. And you can play that again, but it's just that simple decision that you come to with yourself first of what exactly it is that you want.
Yeah.
And you have manifested what you have manifested if you really go back and analyze your life. You have gotten and you have done the things that you wanted to do and you made up your mind that you're going to do them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It all goes back to your core belief.
Yeah. Because you are living the life that you told me you wanted to do even a year ago. Mm-hmm. You have been traveling that way, which I want to know how Croatia was because I'm kind of jelly. I love Europe and I love history and I love those. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, gorgeous. So much history.
How was Croatia?
It was beautiful. So beautiful. It was amazing how old everything was and how young everything is here. Like we are like babies. A very young country and like it's just in a young country, young city. Nashville's so young, so to go like way back in time was really, really cool.
Like these people were building stuff when bricks were not a thing and all the rocks are different shapes because they're just like rocks.
So amazing. Yeah. It's so incredible how people lived back then, and like average lifespan was like 30 or 40. Like they didn't live very long, and
yikes.
It was it was really crazy. I ate everything. The food was incredible. So much bread and olive oil and fish. And so good. Highly recommend it. Croatia was amazing.
I need to do that. I think I'm going to take the podcast on the road this summer. Well, not on the road, probably in the air. Not this summer, maybe September, October, November. I'll disclose more details in the next pods. But
that's exciting.
I think I'm going to go overseas and talk to people.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. That would be beautiful to hear different perspectives from different cultures and all over the world and
different cultures and countries. And I do believe that there are certain cultures that are completely different than American culture because America is still at the top of like everything, social norms, everything that goes on the internet. Everyone is looking at us. Or at least this is how we think. Tell me if I'm wrong. If we Americans, like if I'm just entitled, please tell me. But I feel like
I think they do watch us, but we're not setting great examples.
That's where most culture comes from, and then it gets circulated. And obviously it's a few years late because growing up in India, I could see things that were happening here in the 90s. Over there, it was like 10 years behind. But we would still, that culture would like slowly kind of come in. And then I came here and I was like, whoa, you guys used to do this 20 years ago. I was doing that 5 years ago.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of that and a lot of learning in the beginning. And I was a very quiet person. I didn't have many friends. Before I moved to Nashville, I didn't have many friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had like 40 followers on Instagram.
Okay. So your relationship skills have just blown up exponentially.
Skyrocketed, right?
Yeah.
I should be doing those YouTube videos like, do you want to get, just going crazy?
Do you want to become popular?
Do you want to become popular? Do this.
Yeah. I mean, that's a skill. Relationships are a skill, for sure. So you found love.
Mm-hmm.
How did you do that? How did that happen?
Because I'm slick. Okay, slick to me is just like, slippery. It's just a joke. But
It's just a joke.
it's just a joke. Because that's cool to say. So Josephine and I met around my birthday last year. And then we just hung out
So you guys have been together for like a year?
a year.
Okay.
Roughly a little over a year. And it wasn't something that, it wasn't planned as a date. I slid into her DMs. And it was a very great setup. It was a blessing. It was a great setup because it was 2 days before my birthday. Mm-hmm. I was like, hey, there's this event you should come to. And she came and we had a normal conversation, nothing crazy, and just hung out, kept hanging out. And I want to say a good couple of months after that, we were like, okay, we're dating now. We were just like, before that, we were going out to dinner, doing casual things, just catching up during the day. Hey, how's your day going? But I was very different, extremely different in my approach with her than I had been with anybody else in the past.
Okay.
Completely different.
Tell me more.
And
What was different?
Well, just the way I didn't feel rushed. Before that, I felt rushed. Before that, I was like, okay, let me find out as much as I can about this person so I can kind of write them off or keep them in. So let's put them through the qualifier if they check these boxes for me. But when I met her...
It was kind of a scarcity energy.
Yeah. When I met her, I was like, okay, she's cool. And we just hung out. I was like, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But it didn't just fall into my lap. I was still planning. I was still like, okay, let's go out to this restaurant, planning small activities, continuing to be interesting.
So you pursued her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, a couple months in, we're like, okay.
Take note of that. Men need to take note of that.
Yeah.
You need to pursue.
And same, it was new to me at the time. Because I was like, I don't do this normally. I don't spend that much time. I don't like go a month in not knowing where exactly this is going. But we never were like, hey, what are we doing? It was just like, hey, we're just, it was the getting to know each other phase as a friend and getting to know each other's personalities. And then I was like, okay, we're definitely dating now. We took a trip to the tiny homes and I was like, okay, we're definitely we took a weekend trip. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
So, and then we both had the conversations, and communication is extremely important because even from the beginning, we were very open about how we looked at marriage and children, and we wanted to kind of make sure that we both know what we're getting into, and it's, nothing's forced. It's never been forced. It's been a lot of fun.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But before that, I went on like 2021, 2022, 100. I think I would have to say over 100 dates.
Wow. Okay.
It was a lot. And that's why I say that was my fear of being single. That was my constant fear, like that I need to go on a date. I should be with somebody. I need to go out, meeting people on dating apps, meeting people in person. And it was just very exhausting. But it was helpful. I realized I learned what works, what doesn't work, how not to approach someone, the things not to say, things not to bring up the first time. So if all those have not happened, I would have probably blown it with her too. Yeah, completely would have. So
it's a very interesting point. I'd like to put a pin in that.
So, and I'll continue. Because people say that, oh, well, I'm just going to sit here and wait for my person to come to me.
Right.
When they come to you, they're going to look at you, giggle, and walk away. Because you have no skills.
They're going to giggle at you and walk away.
They're going to be like, LOL. And definitely going to step all over and move
I really
on.
like that. Yeah.
Because you haven't put in the work, you don't have the skills, you don't know what exactly to do. And you may say that I'm fine how I am, but also that way you're going to attract somebody, I'm just going to say this, with less caliber, and you could attract someone with much high quality person, and they can, invest in you back. But if you don't have the skills, it's like, just think about it in business or getting a degree. If you get a normal degree, you're going to get a normal job. But if you're a doctor of neurology or something crazy, you open up people's brains, you make a lot of money. Or if you're like Elon Musk, you see, I think it's that concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more you learn, the more you work on yourself, even if you're going on dates to where like you're not going on a bunch of dates just to have sex and sleep with everybody. You're just going on dates to even learn and what to do and how attraction works. We get better at things that we practice. So if you don't practice it, you're not going to get better at it.
Yeah.
And you're not going to attract that person. And when, like I said, when they come to you, they're going to be like, hey,
You're not ready.
You're not ready.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think that's an important message. And that is one of the reasons that like I'm opening myself up to dating again now. I've kind of taken a break here recently over the past year or so. Maybe not even that long, but I'm feeling like it's time to start putting myself out there again. So like about to get back on the apps, and we'll have to do a follow-up episode on just
Exciting.
like my adventures, how that goes. But it is so important to practice like relationship. And that's how we learn more about ourselves and more about others and what we want and what we don't want. But yeah, you wouldn't expect like your best friend to just show up on accident and then you are just automatically the best friend that there ever was. Like, I'm an incredible friend now because I've invested so much in my friendships, in different friendships for years and years and years and years and years. And now I'm such an incredible friend because it's something I've taken pride in and something I've invested in and something I've improved. And dating is similar. I mean, I'm very curious to see how my journey goes.
I am too.
I bet.
I'm
Any
curious.
advice?
We've discussed a lot of it right now in the last 2 hours.
Take all of your own advice, Staria. That's what
everything that we talk. Just listen to the podcast, once a month or something.
Yeah.
And then the other ones.
For sure. I mean, you need to get grounded and go in with the right intention and have healthy reminders of like why you're doing this, because it's easy to get caught up in like the unhealthy side of it. Just dating for attention or dating for company or whatever it is that your intention is, keeping that front and center as you navigate the wild, wild west of the dating apps.
That's kind of like, instead of going forward, you may end up getting dragged back if you spend too much time with the wrong people and in the wrong circle and with the wrong person. It's like,
do not let anyone bring you down.
Yeah. If you're wearing the wrong shoes in the desert, or I'm trying to think of an analogy, you're digging further as you try to go forward. But if you're wearing the right shoes, you might be able to trek, all the way through your journey.
Yeah. So keeping the question, does this person elevate you?
Yeah.
Does this person help me grow? Does this person make me a better person?
And not tying yourself to somebody too quickly. Not being like, okay, this person checked 5 boxes, this is it. Kind of, at least in the beginning, staying slightly open.
I think so. I'm very open for a long time. I think it takes a really long time to get to know somebody. And I think it's important to not like keep your options open necessarily, but moving too quickly, just Band-Aids over. I mean, you're just looking to fill a need. Like,
correct.
You're not actually being selective with, do I know this person's character? Are they integrity with themselves? Is this somebody who will really elevate me and help me grow? Yeah.
It's like peeling an onion. And in the beginning, the onion's all nice and shiny, right? And then you kind of go in your 3 months and you're like, oh, wow, this is great. 6 months, 9
You're like,
months, 12 months.
6 months is a tough, like, you're like, oh, this is not so great anymore.
Because we humans, we've learned to not show our true sides because it's like it gets rejected. So we wait 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Give it time to see how they react in certain situations, how they react when they're happy,
Yeah.
but most importantly, how they react when you fight,
Yeah.
how they react when they're upset just in a room with you, and how they react when they're upset when they're around people, and how they react to you. Do they react or do they respond?
Yeah.
And if someone is just constantly going off on you after a year, and they used to be perfect in the beginning, they haven't changed.
Yeah.
This is who they have always been. They just have been hiding it from you this whole time. And it's sad, but it is also normal. Like, you can't expect them to do this 2 weeks in. They're never going to find anyone. But they have to have a chance if they're willing to change, or if they're willing to get better. I think that goes hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because in what red flags did you miss? Because they were there. They were absolutely there.
One of the red flags that I've missed in the past. Are you asking me, or are you
Yeah,
just...
yeah.
Okay.
Let's dive into it.
This is going to be
Sure.
fun. So
Let's get a real life example. Because
some
I
of
do
the-
believe that there are always red flags. People are like, this came out of nowhere. And I'm like, I don't think anything comes out of nowhere. I think we either gloss over it, we choose not to see it, or we don't have the level of awareness or consciousness to see it. And this goes back to trusting yourself.
I think the victim mentality, I saw it, I kind of overlooked it in the past. And this was obviously with somebody else. I'm not with this person anymore. And it was the constant need for great attention. And it was the constant that I'm the victim, pity me, this happened to me, that happened to me, and now I need you. And now I need you to do this. And just like the same thing, just like being on my hip immediately after 3 weeks of going out, or 4 weeks, no matter how much time we're spending together, we're still getting to know each other. But I have had people that have shown me their 1 year face in like a month. And I'm like, thank you. This
Yeah.
is great. Like, this is great. You told me now, like you showed it to me now.
Yeah.
And the biggest one would be seeing past someone's bullshit, but telling myself that, oh, they're not bullshitting. We all have the ability to sniff out bullshit from a mile away. We just aren't faithful in ourselves. Like, we don't have the faith in ourselves. Coming back to that, we've discussed this already. But catching someone's BS, but not actually doing anything about it. And then they really blew up, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I think a big one, well, this is... Another one, I have so many, is somebody yelling at you.
Ooh.
If someone's yelling at you, it's game over. Because I don't even remember. I only yell at my dogs.
Yeah.
Because they're barking so loud, I have to yell to kind of, to go through.
Your dogs are crazy.
They're all three, and they all bark at the same time. It's nuts. But if you're yelling at someone, when was the last time a normal person yells at somebody else? When
That's
was
quite
the last
an
time?
escalation if you think about it.
Somebody
really
yelling
is.
at you, either you did something really terrible, like you killed someone, I don't know. But someone yelling at you is a big, big red flag, especially either
I
in
agree.
public or anyhow. If
Ooh.
they lose, like losing temper, but like screaming, yelling,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
That's quite an escalation. And should be reserved for emergencies, feels like.
Yeah, if like you hear gunshots next to you, yeah. Maybe
something,
yell.
yeah.
Something really drastic, right?
Something really drastic. Yeah. And everybody's different. So some people grow up with people that are very loud, and like maybe yelling is not a big deal, but like, analyze the intention behind it and what got that person. So maybe we're using yelling as something that's like would be a trigger to us, but maybe it wouldn't be to somebody else. But like, what are your triggers? Like, identify them on a scale, and like, does this person go from 0 to 60? When they shouldn't be. Like, whatever that scale looks like, maybe it's not yelling, maybe it's throwing stuff or whatever, or maybe it's silent treatment. that could be really, really damaging and destructive as well. So whatever their spectrum is, but if they go from 0 to 60 really quickly, like, okay, they're lacking emotional regulation. Do you want to be in a relationship with somebody who's lacking emotional regulation? Probably not. Not recommended. But.
I think the silent treatment is also a really like a war mentality with your partner, because you think that this is a war. This is not a battle. This is war.
Yeah.
So you're completely silent so they can, if you're taking time, it's punishment. It's if you're taking time to yourself just so you can calm down, because you know that you may yell. So in that case, if you're quiet, that's great.
Right.
But if you're taking that silent treatment and using that as a weapon, you're weaponizing it against your partner, that's war. That's not a relationship.
Yeah.
At that point, you're just trying to win.
Yeah.
If less people felt the need to quote unquote win, the world would be so much of a better place.
Right. Right. And to me, like, that's not okay, like, to go to battle like that. Like, I'm not interested in being in a relationship with somebody like that. So that's an indicator of one of those situations where work needs to be done before you're ready to get into a relationship. But say you've worked through those things on your own, anything can be worked through. I truly believe people can change. Anything can heal. Like, I have changed exponentially. So I truly believe in the human's ability to change if you do the work on your own, and it has to be internally motivated. So if somebody can go through those healing steps and then be able to come to the table and be like, let's talk about this, or, hey, I'm sorry, I need 20 minutes by myself. This is not the silent treatment, but I need time away. That's a huge green flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huge green flag.
Yeah.
So what are some green flags that you saw with Josephine when you first started dating?
Communication. She made me communicate. So in the past,
an incredible woman will call a man forward, I have to say.
In the past, I have run away from communication. I will admit many times.
But she was worth it?
Oh, yeah, 100%. It was more like, hey, we should be talking about this versus we should fight and then come to a resolution immediately. Or not a resolution, or come to a decision immediately about what's going to happen. It's more of like, hey, let's communicate. You need to talk to me. We should talk about this. We should actually openly. So for men, I think open communication is hard. You may think you're communicating, and this happened with me is why I'm saying. You may think that you're communicating, but you're giving so little that the other person has to really dissect. And if they're unable to really dissect, we're not mind readers. Mm-hmm. So your communication should be clear. And if you feel bad about something, say it. Mm-hmm. If you feel shameful about something, say it. That this is how it actually makes me feel. So communication was a big one. That was a big green flag. And constant communication about even our lives and where our lives are leading to what we want out of our lives and things like that. Like just, a check-in every month, every couple months, that I think is super important. And being overall on the same page. Have that conversation in the first few months. If the first time you meet is a date, so let's say you meet somebody on a social media or like online dating website, you go out on the first date, keep that conversation open. It's okay to have that, hey, where is this relationship going? What are we doing here? You don't have to ask that the first time, but 3, 4, 5 times you're hanging out, you're going on dates, you have to be open that, hey, I'm not just dating around to, waste my time. Or you can just say that, hey, I'm just casually dating. I have other plans with my life. I don't have time for like actually being in a relationship, but have that conversation in fairly early rather than assuming. And then when we assume, we go 6 months down and we're like, oh, this person doesn't want the same thing and they betrayed me. No, you betrayed yourself.
Yeah. Ooh.
They did not betray you.
You betrayed yourself.
You betrayed yourself. You never had that conversation with them. It's not their fault. If you keep putting more and more effort into somebody and they're putting less, but they see that putting less effort is great, it's working out for them, they're going to do that. The more comfort we humans get, like we're designed to fall into comfort as much as we want. And it's upon us to we get discomfort and that's how we grow. But you have to have those conversations in the beginning.
Yeah. Being uncomfortable, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable is so powerful in this situation. You're going to be uncomfortable when you're single, but don't let it make you settle. Because there's something way better on the other side.
I do think people settle a lot, and they also tell themselves. So it's the ignorance is bliss kind of thing. That, oh no, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Because I told myself that a long time ago, and I haven't done a whole lot of work, so I'm okay with this. It's
Yeah.
like being okay with something that's not okay, and you could be so much more.
Yeah. But there's a level of difficulty to get through to the more. So it's going to get worse before it's going to get better. Like it's going to get more uncomfortable before it gets incredible. But I want the incredible. Like I want it all. I want all the magic, all the love, all the passion, all the sex, everything. And I will go through whatever discomfort is required, whatever healing is required, whatever time alone is required, whatever I need to do in order to get to that incredible relationship. That's a no-brainer for me. Like it's easy for me to not want to settle.
You ask an 8-9-year-old, and I'm using children as a good analogy because they have no filter, they have not been tainted by the world yet. You ask a 5, 6, 7-year-old, hey, do you want this mediocre toy or do you want this best toy in the world? Guess which one they're going to pick?
Best toy in the world.
And I didn't use an adult because adults get used to the notion that, oh, I'm mediocre, I'm going to take mediocre. Nobody wants mediocre anything.
I'll take what I can get right now.
You have to go for the best. You have to shoot for the stars. Don't let anyone else let you think otherwise.
Right.
Because when you do it, they're going to come back and ask you.
People,
Once you do it, they're going to come back and ask you how you did it and take lessons from you.
Right. Because they don't understand like what is possible, and people will try to keep you at their level. It's just how we're programmed. Like, what is if you shake up ants or something, like I don't know, climb out of a jar. That's a terrible analogy because I can't remember the whole thing. But there's an animal. If you put animals in a jar, they won't let each other climb out because they keep pulling each other back down. I don't know if it's crabs or something. I can't remember.
Let's look that up. We have Google.
Okay, let's look that up. And humans do that to our own detriment. Like we could support each other and find new levels of reality, and conscious communities absolutely do that. And you always have to find those people around you who will help you do that. I think this relationship is a beautiful example of that. We're always pushing the envelope of what's possible. Like, how can I support you? Like, let's go to the moon, whatever it takes. But the people around you, naturally, they've settled. They have always settled. And so they're going to expect you to settle too. Because when you go outside of those norms, it casts a reflection on them of like they could have done better, and nobody wants to see that. So break away. Go for it.
And have friends that are okay with you going forward.
Yeah.
If they want to settle and if they want to live a suburban life at 25, because some people do.
Right.
You don't have to do that.
We're not saying that that's settling.
Yes.
That would be settling for me personally, but a lot of people, that is their dream, and I fully support their dream.
I know people that have like gotten married early and have had children, and that's amazing. They're happy. It's a beautiful thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they're friends with you, make sure that they're okay with you becoming or doing whatever you want. If you want to get married 10 years after them, don't let them pressure you into doing that now just because it's going to fulfill them. They're going to say that it's about you. No, we worry about you. We care about you. No, it's all about them. I cannot get into your head and feel what you're feeling ever. Ever.
Right.
But I have this own notion in my head that, oh, this will probably make her feel better. No, this will make me feel better, thinking that it'll make you feel better. So break those norms.
Yeah, break those norms. Absolutely. We're built for so much more, and I think that probably most of the people who are your audience are already aligned with that way of thinking. That we truly can have it all, but we have to choose to not settle in order to have it all. Like if you get mired down into these relationships that are not fully serving you, you're not available to be, to find the wonderful, great, epic love is waiting for you, but you can't get to it if you've gotten caught on all these roadblocks on the way. So it's about finding like, is this truly in alignment with what I want? No? Okay. Say no. Say no, thank you, and keep going on your own until you find what is in alignment. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. Never settle.
I think as this podcast goes, I'm going to talk more about the journey that I'm in right now, the full transformation of my life, of going 180 multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time in my life that I'm realizing that I'm in the building the brick by brick of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
This is the first time. Every time else, I was like, I don't know if it's going to happen. But now I'm like, okay, it's happened 3 times before. And now I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
It's just something else that I'm doing.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
This was so amazing.
This was so good to catch up with you.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah. Years in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a really cool moment because it really is years in the making.
Yeah. I think life is by far the most beautiful thing I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so far.
So far.
Maybe there's another chapter.
And every day,
Yeah.
it becomes that more beautiful.
Yeah, it really does. It's a beautiful journey. So you guys find me online. My name is Staria Clark. I am a local Nashville realtor, and I have a passion for helping people create wealth and financial freedom through buying and investing in real estate. I would love to talk to you, hang out with you. If you are a friend of Sumant, you're a friend of mine.
Yes.
So yeah, find me online at Staria Clark across all platforms because I am the only Staria Clark.
You are.
Maybe not the only, but
next episode
one of
we'll
few.
dig into your name because I know that story. I think people want to know that story too. Next time you're on.
It was somebody's dating adventure once upon a time.
Shh, don't give it up. Don't give it up.
Don't give it up. And then we'll have to follow up on my dating adventures.
On your dating
because now
adventure.
I'm accountable because I said I was going to get on the dating app. So now I have to. So.
Yeah. These are going to get released pretty soon, so you better get on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So I better get going. Hey, if anybody wants to save me from the dating apps, feel free to set me up. I'm okay with that too.
Slide into her DMs. I just told you guys that's how Josephine and I started.
Oh,
I slid into the
right.
DMs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can bypass the whole app thing.
Yeah, exactly.
okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, this was amazing.
So amazing. All done?
This is so cool. Yeah.